Raymond, we appreciate your
invasion of privacy for you to see with
what is under your collar.
Please.
Yes.
If it wasn't pointing at us, we wouldn't see it.
You two, you can see some.
Yeah, I can see it from
even
where
through the
anyone on Facebook Live right now. Anyone on Facebook Live right now can see the red in your collar. But good morning to our friends watching us on the Joy 99.7 FM page on Facebook. Check out Raymond's red stripe on his collar. It's one very lonely red stripe, but still representing Red Friday.
Yes.
And it's a big part of our conversation today. The big conversation of is Ghana working? I'm going to tell you more about that in a moment. But guys, front pages.
Now, the Chronicle is reporting this morning a 3-man committee to probe a justice text also been put in place. 4.3 million kids die before age 5. UNICEF says the poor in cities never benefit from urbanization. 60 commit suicide over DKM unpaid monies. This is according to an association set up together to make sure they are paid.
On the front page of the Daily Statesman, court orders Palava apology for Gabi. Goil and ExxonMobil sign partnership agreement. NDC on sale to the highest bidder. JDM backbend Sly et al. To cough up 420,000 Ghana cedis each. Massive works rollouts in rail sector. And that's the front page of the Daily Statesman.
The Ghanaian Observer has these stories. New region grab 120 million Ghana cedis, and security task force to bury Dagbon. Overlords ready. And the NDC one, this one, it goes this way. NDC auctions flag bearer race. Aspirants to pay 400,000 filing fee. Concern really is whether or not, if you just go and pick this paper, 20,000 cedis. Just the A4 sheet.
Non-refundable.
That's even the worst part.
A4
sheet.
You can't
20,000.
I think that's the most expensive piece of paper I've heard of in my life.
Believe that.
Right. On the front page of the Gold Street Business, bailout of all microfinance depositors underway. Over 1 billion Ghana cedis in deposits at stake. Export-import indices to be implemented next year. $60 million opportunity opens for Ghana seed companies.
Now, the Finder is reporting this morning 2020 presidential primary. And of course, the say is by 500%, the NDC's 420,000, but German government injects 10 million euros into rice production in Ghana. Hopefully, we reduce the almost 200 million we spend on bringing rice into the country some way, somehow. Government allocates 120 million for 6 new regions, but good news. 79 projects under 1D, 1F ready to be implemented. That's according to Dr. Baumia.
Right, ready to be
implemented.
How different is this from the announcements the finance minister made during the budget that 79 will be at various stages of completion by the end of this year?
So ready to be implemented means that ready to be rolled out.
Okay, we'll get to that story shortly.
Yes.
And then you bring us more details.
Okay, now the front page of the Herald, there's a bit of an alarming story. Armed gang storms Dodowa Hospital to kill patients. Confirms state of insecurity in the country. Spio Ricketts Bonsu to drop out of NDC flag bearer race over 420,000 filing fees. And government baits voters with 20 million Ghana cedis to support new regions. The last headline on the front page of the Herald, ECG profit cartel shoots up charges on December 1st. Company's circular announces outrageous increments. That's the Herald.
Now, the Ghanaian Times has the only different story you've not heard this morning. Libra gets 288 months for rape and robbery. That's on the front page of the Ghanaian Times. The rest, NDC filing fees, EC, and also 4 million to boost women in business. They are all stories you've heard before. And the very last one I have before me is the Daily Guide. NDC slaps 420,000 presidential candidates. Now, police invited me. Beige bank boss. They didn't arrest me.
No, it was an invitation.
Yeah.
All right. Are you done?
Yes, please.
Okay. On the front page of the New Weekend Crusading Guide, we would arrest you, Kenny Japan told as he threatens to remove Anas masks at the GLC. ADB MD wins Business Growth Achievement Award. On the front page of the Daily Graphic, there's also that story about the filing fee, shaking aspirants. No law breached on justice, Broadway reporters, according to Dan Botre. Business Development Ministry launches 4 million Ghana cedi fund for physically challenged women. And police military to be ruthless on troublemakers. And that's concerning the Dadon roadmap.
So the filing fee seems to feature heavily on all the front pages, guys.
Yes.
Let's start rather with 4.3 million children died.
Yes, this is according to a UNICEF report. And the UNICEF report's combining data from both demographic and health survey and multi-indicator cluster surveys. And the indication here is that they are likely to die. These are kids who mostly live in urban areas. So the presumption would have been that in urban areas, you'll be wonderfully catered for. In urban areas, you have all the facilities available to you. But the report, which looks at some indicators, basically of child welfare, access to water, sanitation, skilled birth attendants, birth registration, DPT immunization, primary education completion, HIV/AIDS knowledge and among boys and girls, even between the ages of 15 and 24, stunting, and child mortality. When you put all of them together, it is extremely likely that 4.3 million who are living in urban areas are likely to die. The situation is not different from the Ghanaian situation. In fact, the multi-indicator cluster survey suggests that we have done very little to reduce the poverty of the extremely poor children and the inequality they suffer, especially when they happen to be in the urban areas. So generally, there's more poor people. There are more poor people in rural areas compared to urban areas. But when it comes to extreme poor children, there are more of them in the urban areas compared to the rural areas. And that's the difficulty that is being contended in this case. What can be done is specialized targeted programs. So the presumption has always been that the places we have to target for LEAP are the rural poor. We should, and we tried some time ago, bringing up the urban poor because of how serious the situation is. Why is the situation very serious? If you're in the rural areas, at least you can find farming and get yourself food to eat. In the urban areas, finding a place to put your head is a problem. So you might be on the streets. You might sleep with your mother who got pregnant on the streets. You might actually end up in that cycle of also having a family on the street and continue in that case. So that's how terrible the situation is. We'll see how government interventions will seek to erode some of these. And the worst part is that these people, by no fault of theirs, get up to being on the streets. And we have a nice law that says that they can't beg on the streets too. So, what's on the other side? We are not providing alternative social welfare for them.
Yeah.
You can understand that.
Now, Raymond, you were mentioning that one of these causes is stunting.
Yes,
right?
Yes.
It reminds me of one of the first stories that we did as a team in February. Plum Peanuts. Remember that story that won Justice Beidou the international award. And I think that for that story really captures the healthcare system. So what happened was that there's a food supplement that was being catered for an international funding.
Yes.
Our international partners tell us that, because you are now a middle-income country, we are going to have to remove some funding to the health sector gradually.
Yeah.
Negotiations were done with the health ministry, and I'm telling this story for a reason. Negotiations were done with the health ministry. The funding was removed. Ghana did not provide the counterparts funding and or the funding to replace it, and so this food supplement was not supplied, and hundreds of thousands of children, about 22.3% of our households have children who are malnourished. Hundreds of thousands of children did not have enough nutrients in their body to grow as a result of our inability, let me use the word inability, to provide this food supplement. And if you look through all of these cases that are endangered 4.3 million people in this country below the age of 5, the most vulnerable, all of them are preventable.
Yeah.
All of them are preventable.
Just have to prioritize an area. Yeah.
If we have the commitment and if we dedicate the funding to it. So thanks our friends from the UNICEF for opening our eyes to this. But the question really is, where are we now? What are our real priorities? It's some of these questions that we will be asking today when we are having a conversation around the scorecard. Notedia moderated the health panel. He would be, or the health discussion, I should say. He will be joining us alongside all the other moderators for today's conversation, for Tuesday's conversation. And we'll be asking some of these questions because when we look at this figure, is Ghana really working? In other news, some people are paying 400,000 cedis to be president.
Well, they're not paying it yet. They're protesting largely. But yeah, so yesterday at a news conference in Accra, General Secretary of the NDC, Mr. Johnson Asiedu Nketia, made the announcement that the filing fee for presidential candidates, for those who want to be the flag bearer of the NDC, has gone up from 50,000 to 400,000 Ghana cedi. So the total comes to 420,000 if you add, like we said earlier, the cost of picking up the form. Female aspirants will pay 200,000 cedis, and persons with disabilities will pay 150,000 cedis. And you know what's really funny is that when the graphic was talking to Mr. Spio Garba, he said that he wears glasses and he can't see very well. So he comes under the people with disabilities. Therefore, he must pay 150,000 cedis instead of the 400,000 cedis.
Oh,
so the forms will be available on the 3rd and 4th of December. The filing will happen between the 13th and the 14th of December. The election for the flag bearer has been slated for January 19th, 2019 in all the 275 constituencies. They're expecting about 260,000 delegates to vote. The general school of thought is that this amount that they're charging does not really go well with the fact that it's a social democratic party, and therefore they should not be charging that much. There have been a lot of reactions. Well, from the Mahama camp, they have said that they're not going to say anything. Mr. Kojo Bonsu has also said he won't say anything. Mr. Spio Garba made that comment about the fact that he is disabled as well, so he's looking to pay the 150,000 alongside all the other candidates who have one form of disability or the other. That's what he said.
I have only one question. How do we fund political parties in Ghana?
Yeah, that's the essential question. And to all intents and purposes, these things, they never make it better. The fact that the highest bidder is more likely to be the candidate. I've heard perhaps the most preposterous claim that when you are in opposition, you don't get money. Political parties, when they are in opposition, you don't get money. If that's the reasoning, the NDC today should be richer than the NPP.
Because they've been in power for longer.
Yes, for 8 good years they were in power. They just went into opposition for 2 years. Compared to the NPP that was in opposition for 8 years and just got into power for 2 years. So time you spent in power compared to the number of years you spent in opposition, the NDC should be richer. And if that's the logic, they should actually be charging far less than that. To the extent that they claim that they are not having enough money shows there's a problem.
But is it also not because the NPP apparently charges that much?
No, I mean, that logic is completely...
But for us to say that...
No, I mean, in terms of...
We are charging logic. Because the NPP charges that
it wouldn't be something that is out of place.
Every conversation that we try
But it wouldn't be something that's out of place when it comes to the discussions NDC, NPP. That's what they do. Everything is, but the NPP did this, so we are doing this. So the NDC did this, so we're doing this.
But this is not an NPP conversation.
Exactly. Anymore, there's a reason why, for instance, on the Super Morning Show, we have not had NDC and NPP come and sit here discuss these things.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, and which is why we should elevate the discussion about MPP did this and so NDC did this.
Well, we are elevating the discussion, but they are not. I'm just saying that this is also another reason that has been given for why this is being done.
For me, and acknowledge that reason, for me the real question, and it will come back to that, how do politicians or political parties get money to run? We were all aware. Look, I live in Ghana. I live thousands of miles away from America, but I know how Obama raised money to run for president back in 2008. It was crowdfunded. I'm sure my elder brother even donated money to him, and he was living with me in Ghana because he said he would.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm talking about?
It was something like, you could even give $1.
They crowdfunded the campaign, and you see there's an official fund in the USA for every presidential candidate to access and to get funding. Mr. Obama refused that funding because it limits the amount of money that you can spend. And so he crowdfunded the campaign, and everyone who bought into it donated as little as $1 or $2 to go and run for to allow him to run for president. So if you're telling me that you need to run an election across the country, and this can cost as much as 6 million cedis. Remember how much Mr. Ahmed Usule is said to have charged the political parties for the presidential primary. This can cost as much as 6 million cedis. In the first place, why is it so expensive to run an internal party affair? And secondly,
and this country is one of the most expensive election costs in the world. This country.
Yes, very, very true.
For whichever reason, it doesn't make sense.
It costs between about $6 to $8 per voter to run an election.
And yet we don't hold the most credible elections, actually.
Exactly. Remember what the Conservative Party representative said as the NPP's national executives election, where he said that it is about time that political parties started focusing on what voters want in bettering their lives rather than the internal processes. Then he was pointing at a simple picture of the number of posters that people were putting there. If you look at how much people invest. So the question really, how do they get the money to run, and how do they get that money back after they win?
And one other question that matters is that there's an institution that's supposed to make sure that we all have the accountability at this level, the Electoral Commission. I was extremely disappointed when I was asking similar questions in the run up to 2016 election, and even the AC chair was insisting that was not a priority at the time. Conducting the election itself was the priority. Then we'll come back and say people are spending money and that people are being corrupt when we enable them to do so in the first place. Anyway.
Anyway, Raymond, I'm coming back to you to talk about another unfortunate story.
Yes. Okay. Now, the chairman of a group in the Brunaf region who are called the DKM Victims Investments Association, Nananya Ako, has revealed that in the Brunaf region alone, they know 60 people who have died from the time the DKM incident happened till this time. This is because they are attributing it to the shock and trauma they suffered when, their monies could not be retrieved, how they struggled to get money to feed their families and all of that. So he says the number could be even more than that. But to them, people they could pinpoint to are 60 of them. He believes that the political discussion about whether or not they've been paid or not is unfair because lives are involved. If they have been paid, he doesn't think that people will die in the first place. He's saying that a chunk of the people are still failing to get their monies, and it's not only DKM, it's about Justa and all the other groups, God is Love. All of these are people who are still not being paid, who are still struggling to get the basic things for their family because they made investments which they thought was right. And let's be clear, DKM and Co were being deemed legitimate RNS, unlike what some other groups are doing now. They were not the Ponzi schemes of today. They were legitimate RNS supported by state institutions until the latter days where they found them to be problematic. So they are still saying that if they can be helped, there are still some families. Kids have dropped out of school. People are struggling to make ends meet. Marriages are broken down completely because there is still a lot of problems with retrieving money from where the people said they will pay them, how they were supposed to pay them. He says there's also another group that we are not talking about. People who actually put in, let's say, 100,000 and only got 2,000 cedis back. So that group is also one group that is also there. They don't know that they're going to say we've been paid or we have not been paid, because when they go and complain, say, but others have not been paid anything at all. So that's the complaint of the group in this case.
I don't understand. In the 2019 budget, Mr. Oforiatta stated that 92% of the claims have been paid, which represents 80% of the claimants.
Yeah.
So how does this
work? They say it's not factual. They say even within their groupings alone. I mean, they're not even go to other regions. And DK was predominantly in the Brunaf region. Okay. They say even within their groups alone, they cannot count out to that particular number. But just that, finance minister spoke perhaps for some information he got from other quarters. They are letting him know and the government know, because they're writing the petition to the president in this case, that the numbers government is quoting is clearly misleading and not factual.
Do they have numbers to back that?
They say, okay, they have collected their data. It's in the petition to the president. And in fact, they're going to add names and specifically, so that it's not made to look like they're just dealing with empty, missing people or what, unknown people.
It will be good to see that list. Yes. Anymore, let's talk about the physically challenged.
Yes. So there was a fundraising last night to try and raise some money for women entrepreneurs, but more specifically those with physical challenges. A recent study from the MasterCard Index of Women Entrepreneurship in 2018, which looked at 57 economies, which represents 78.6% of the world's female labor force, found that in Ghana, women's business ownership is the highest, so 46.4%, and further noted that women and the youth in Ghana are spearheading business creation. Now, based on that, they've tried to, mainly the First Lady is trying to raise money for women entrepreneurs who are physically challenged. And we're saying a big thank you to Mr. George Owusu, who donated $100,000 to the fund, McDan Shipping as well for their contribution so far, and asking that a lot more people donate so that more women who are physically challenged can be helped and supported.
Thanks to all of the donors. But government is voting 120 million cedis, Raymond.
Yes, that's the budgetary allocation and also our seed money for the new regions. Okay. This is according to Minister for that particular department, Daniel Kweku Boche. Mr. Boche is of the opinion that some amount of money is required for preparatory work, and that now that the hurdle has been cleared, the court has ruled on the matter, we need to go into referendum. That's also money-laden business. We need a huge number of the people being present in the areas selected for the election, and also we need, for all the 6 places that the election has to take place, we need election materials and all of them going there. Beyond this, you need to also set up the regions properly. And regions come with so many other investments into infrastructure and other things. So the beginning is where they're going to go in this direction. And the hope is that this money will be put to good use. And when the EC finally clears the referendum and the people agree that they want the regions, all of this money will be disbursed appropriately.
All right. Let's wrap up quickly with the Dagbon roadmap anymore.
Yes, just a brief update. So the police and military have said, they've issued a statement that they are going to be ruthless, absolutely ruthless, with anybody who tries to bring any issues, to cause any sort of contention in Dagbon. They're committed to trying to ensure that there's peace. They're going to guard vehemently against violence, especially as they prepare towards the final funeral rites of the Yana. So just it's kind of a warning, really, that just no problems. Don't create any problems, because we're really trying to maintain some peace in that area.
Yes, we need peace in Dagbon. Let's go online now, and the online news review is brought to you by Zenith Bank. In your best interest, Goyle Good Energy, and download the Safe Doctor app now from Google Play. Safe Doctor, the future of better medical care. Good morning to you, Josh Crying of Ofanko. You received 1,000 cedis worth of fuel on your Go card for the month of November and a weekend hotel stay for 2. Many others were rewarded with 1,000 cedis worth of fuel for accruing the highest points in the Goyle Efie promotion. 720 customers have received their ultimate rewards from your favorite CIMG Petroleum Company of the Year at the Pawofia Oje. If you want to win as well, collect your scratch card anytime you buy Goyle Fuel, 80 cedis and above. Dial star 161 star 4645 hash and follow the prompts. Your loyalty rewards also await you at the end of the month if you buy more fuel and accrue more points. Goyle Efie promo runs till January 2019. Terms and conditions apply. Goyle Good Energy. Goyle Yenara Yedia. Now, your bank of choice, Zenith Bank, is the best customer service bank in Ghana. Our ability to serve you with the very best of products and services in the banking industry has earned us the Excellence in Customer Service Award at the 2018 Ghana Business Awards. We've also won several notable customer service awards, both locally and internationally. So go on, make that move today and achieve your aspirations with Zenith Bank, because we care. Zenith Bank, in your best interest. MyJoyOnline.com says Ghana moves up in FDI investment countries in Ghana. That's countries that attract foreign direct investment. We've moved from 8th to 7th position. This is according to the EY Africa Attractiveness Report. We also ranked 2nd in West Africa for FDI attractiveness. You want to get the details of that on myjoyonline.com. Minority One Special Initiative Ministry scrapped. I just saw the story on Facebook when I was about to come in. Haruna Idrisu, who is leading the charge there, he's Member of Parliament for Tamale South and Minority Leader. Interesting reasons there that he's giving. You want to get the details on myjoyonline.com. The BBC.com has this interesting story. How cooking and cleaning transformed a violent man. Interesting story from Rwanda there. You want to read that on the BBC.com. We're going to take these important messages, and then the BBC News at 7 comes off shortly. But remember, today we are talking about Ghana, and we are asking if our nation is really working in the face of some of the challenges we have enumerated in the news review. Stay with us.